Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So this is technically the second, but it's the first, like, I guess mainly like official book versus movies series. I'm doing a long form, and this book versus movies is It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. So I read the book and I just watched the movie. So let's discuss. I had my phone next to me and I made, you can't see it, but I made some notes. I made some notes. Now I had not watched the movie before. This was my first time seeing the movie. This was also my first time reading the book. I read the book first and then I watched the movie because that's how you should do it. If I have not read, or if I have not seen the movie, I'm reading the book before I see the movie. Anywho, so It Ends With Us. This is a little bit outside of what I typically read, but oh my word, it was so good. I could not put it down. This book, I actually really liked this book. I really liked it. It does obviously talk about some very like serious stuff, and you know, it's really sad, but it's really good. But yeah, so the book was really good. I guess there will maybe be some spoilers, but I feel like most people have at least seen the movie, if not read the book, or both by now. The movie's been out for quite a while. It's normally not my type of thing that I would like watch or anything either. So I'm really liking this series because it's like stepping me outside of my comfort zone, you know? Okay, so anyway, to compare the two, hold on, let me let Gav out really quick, and then we're gonna dive in. Okay, so let's just dive into this. As I like go more and more into like these series, I'm sure I'm gonna do a lot better. I'm just gonna kind of talk and share my opinion and share basically what was different between the movie and the book, and I will give you my opinion at the end on which I prefer, like either the book or the movie, which one I thought was better, if I have a preference, if I don't have a preference, that kind of thing. Okay, so one of the main things is, okay, so we're just gonna start from the beginning and then go to the end of the movie because that's how my notes are laid out, and I feel like that, like the beginning is what sets up the rest of the movie, right? So when they're on the roof at the beginning of the movie, they're talking about naked truths, right? And in the book, she tells Ryle that she was there because she was at her father's funeral and she was supposed to give the eulogy, and she couldn't think of anything nice to say. You know, she had told him that on the roof. She also told him on the roof, one of her naked truths was that her father was to her mother. And those are two really big key things and kind of what sets up a lot of some of the stuff in like what he does later on in the movie. And I was just looking it up because this is something that is said in the book, but they never bring it to life in the movie. Ryle, and it's because she tells Ryle about her father. So Ryle says, "There is no such thing as bad people. We're all just people who sometimes do bad things." Now, in the book, that comes up later, and she basically retells Ryle that same sentence when he accidentally does something. And she tells him that, you know, we're what was it? You know, there's no such thing as bad people. We all just make mistakes. We do bad things. So that's like a big thing that I feel like they missed and like they didn't say, because then later on when he's, you know, like when he accidentally pushes her down the stairs, he accidentally hits her, like all of that stems back to he knows what her father was like, and like kind of like the household and the stuff that she grew up in, and like all of that, and how him doing this would affect her. So I feel like they missed like a big part of that in the movie because they don't set it up. So if you haven't read the book, you don't know the backstory. You don't know her past history. You don't know why when her mom tells her to just say 5 things that she loved about her father, why she couldn't say those, why she couldn't come up with anything, why she didn't say 5 things. And like that's really like the main premise of the entire book that I feel like they kind of like dropped the ball on. And like he did tell her about the child that passed, and like he tried to do everything, and how, you know, the brother accidentally, like it was an accident, all this stuff, and she's like, I have no idea like what that would do to the brother and all that stuff. So like that was his naked truth, but like, which later on that in the book that gets brought up again, in the movie not really. We'll get to that. So then next, just following down the timeline, in the book when Lily starts or like opens her flower shop, you know, it's a few months later, and she opens it, she gets the keys, she starts, you know, cleaning it out, renovating it, all that stuff. And Alyssa stops by and, you know, she's like, oh, like I saw the help wanted sign, blah, 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 blah. And, you know, at first Lily's like, no, like I'm not looking for any help, which they kind of, they did it weird in the movie because Alyssa didn't like, she didn't basically like say, no, like I'm here to help, I don't need this job, blah, blah, blah. Alyssa was gonna turn around and walk out, and Lily was like, no, like I could use the help, you know, all this stuff. So like that was a little different, but like it's okay. But so in the book, they're both, Lily and Alyssa are, you know, starting to clean out the place and all this stuff, and they're in the office and they're moving stuff around, and Lily falls and breaks her ankle. And, you know, so then Alyssa's like, hold on, like let me go get my husband and my brother, like my brothers, she ends up like calling them, they come over, you know, because they're in the onesies, because they're at the bar, free beers, all this stuff. And so in the book, you know, that's when she sees Ryle again, and they act like they don't know each other. He's, you know, in the medical field, so he takes a look at her ankle, he helps her out, all this and that. Well, in the movie, she never falls. She never falls, she never breaks anything. They're trying to hang up something, and so Alyssa calls her husband and her brother in, and, you know, they like say hi, whatever, and it comes out that Lily and Ryle have met before. Which that's another, like, in the book, it's like suspenseful because it's like, oh, you know, they're the only ones that know, and then later it comes out that like, no, actually, like, we've known each other for a little bit, blah, blah, blah. Like, we met once months ago. And so it's kind of like just their thing. And I know, like, in the movie, you know, you have like a shorter time, you have to try and condense it, whatever, but like, I don't know, it's kind of weird. Also, during one of the flashbacks, when you're learning about Atlas, he comes over, and this is when he is making the cookies. And it's kind of a big, in my opinion, it's kind of a big, I guess I'm gonna say that for a lot of this stuff. They really kind of, I feel like, drop the ball on a lot of stuff, like a lot of important stuff. So when Atlas is making the cookies, she looks outside and she sees her dad is home. He parks on the street, so like in full view from the front window. In the book, he parks in the garage. They heard the garage door open and she's like, you need to leave, that's my dad, blah, 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 blah. And that's a big thing because her dad parks in the garage. Her mom's not allowed to. Her mom parks in the driveway. Her dad parks in the garage. It's a whole thing in the book. And like, again, if you didn't read the book, you probably wouldn't really think anything of it. But like, if you read the book, it's like, okay, well, he's supposed to park in the garage. Like, that's the whole thing. He gets the garage. And there was a whole big fight with her mom and her dad when her mom parked in the garage one time. And like, didn't move her car in time and all this and that. So it's like, I mean, they still showed like other stuff. Okay, let's see. The restaurant. So in the book, Atlas eventually becomes like, he lives in Boston, and he opens a restaurant, which is what he had told Lily years ago, that he wanted to open a restaurant. He wants to live in Boston because everything's better in Boston. That is a huge thing in the book. They say it a few times in the movie, but in the book, it's so big. Things are better in Boston. And in the book, Atlas gives Lily a magnet, a Boston magnet, and it says, you know, things are better in Boston. And that then later on leads to something that happens between Lily and Ryle, and they kind of switch that up a little bit as well. But the restaurant in the book, the restaurant is called Bibs, B-I-B-S. And later on, when it's, you know, it's in the article, like Lily's Bloom, her flower shop is in like the article as like one of the top 10 businesses, you know, all this stuff, and Ryle has her read it, and he's like, no, read about our favorite restaurant. And it's Bibs, and one of the things that is said in there from Atlas, who is the owner, is everything's better in Boston. And then that goes back to the magnet, and they have this whole big, huge blowout. Well, in the movie, the restaurant isn't named Bibs. It's named Root. R-O-O-T, Root. Now, there still is significant meaning behind that. So with that, it goes back to one of the flashbacks when Atlas is helping Lily in her garden, and they're covering the roots, and she talks about how important the roots are to the plant and how it's the most important part of the plant and all this stuff. So like, it does still like make sense and fit, but like, they changed the name of the restaurant. I don't know. I found that really weird. And then in the article, he talks about how, you know, Root was really important, but like, he didn't want to talk about it because it was just between him and this girl. And when asked if he had met this girl since, or seen this girl since, or whatever, he says yes, next question. Which again that also leads to the whole blowout thing between Ryle and Lily. Which, before that whole big blowout, during, it was the, pretty sure it was when he hit her in the kitchen. She had told him afterwards, she was like, this was a mistake, like this was an accident, and all this stuff. I'm pretty sure that's when she says that, like, there's no bad people, you just do bad things. But she told him that if this ever happened again, she would leave him. She told Ryle that in the book, which again also leads back to on the roof when she told Ryle about her father. So then when she tells him that, you know, she's going to leave him, all this stuff, he understands. Well, she never says that in the movie because she never told Ryle about her father in the movie. So like it wouldn't make sense necessarily, which I feel like that's like a really big thing that is missing, because then when he goes and does something again and she falls down the stairs, there's this whole thing that's like missing in the movie, because yeah, he brings her back, he cleans her up, you know, tends to her, whatever, but like then they just move on and just go back to like life is normal kind of thing. And it's like, no, it's a whole big deal. And like in the book, she's also, you know, she's going back and telling herself, oh, like it was a mistake, yeah, like I accidentally tripped or whatever. And then eventually Ryle does confess to Lily that he pushed her in the book. Again, does not happen in the movie, but he confesses to her. And like that, those are really big, key, important parts of like the entire story on like why she stays, why she is like why is she staying with him when he's still doing this? And it's like, she never wanted to become her mom. And yes, she does break the cycle, but like, how long does it take? How many times is an accident going to happen? Oh, another big thing, which in my opinion was huge. Ryle never tells Lily what happens, or like what happened to Emerson. So in the book, after she accidentally falls down the stairs, she comes into work the next day, and Alyssa, Ryle's sister, she doesn't really know like the circumstance, what happened, but she knows a little bit. I think it was after that, or maybe it was after the kitchen incident. I don't remember. Fudge. I don't remember. It was after one of the two. I don't remember if it was the first or the second. But anyway, when Lily comes into the flower shop, Ryle is there, and Alyssa tells her, I got the shop, like, you go back, he needs to talk to you, like, it's really important. And she tells Ryle, if you don't tell her, I will. So they go back to the apartment, and that's when Ryle tells Lily what happened to Emerson, what he did to Emerson, and how he can relate to that 6-year-old boy who accidentally did something to his brother, which then ties together a whole thing. And like, that's huge. But in the movie, they have it like towards the end, and it's like when Lily is kind of like on the verge of like wanting to leave him anyway, and Ryle's sister, Alyssa, is the one who tells Lily about Emerson. And like, that's also when Lily tells Alyssa that she's pregnant, which Alyssa is the first one besides Atlas that knows. Like, even in the book that happens. But like still, it's like, because then it also ties back to the roof and like the naked truths, like how he was able to kind of like relate to that 6-year-old boy. Another thing that, so then after the whole magazine incident, okay, and that's also when Ryle finds the phone number in Lily's phone, like, because he accidentally drops her phone, the case pops off, and he sees the phone number in between the phone and the phone case, and he called the number, he found out who it was, all this and that, and then with the article, it all blows up. And in the movie, he keeps hounding her about her tattoo that she has, the heart tattoo, and the meaning behind it. And in the book, it's focused on the magnet, but she doesn't have the magnet in the movie, so it has to focus on the tattoo and all of that. So once that gets all blown out and things happen, in the book, Lily had memorized that phone number because she never wanted to have to use it, but she knew, like, in the back of her mind, okay, I probably am gonna have to use it. So she had memorized the phone number. Well, in the movie, she goes to the restaurant. Now, in the book, she, like, is super quiet, calling him, and she's like, when you get here, like, don't knock, like, just text me, I will come out, blah, blah, blah. So it's, like, it's a little bit different. I mean, it's still kind of like, I guess, dramatic or whatever, but it is a little bit different. Well then, okay. So, but it is a little bit different. Well, so then she only ends up staying one night at Atlas's place in the movie. In the book, she stays, I think, like 3 nights, I think it was. And in the book, one of those nights, he has friends that come over because they play poker like once a week. So it was poker night. And so within that, she like gets to know his friends and stuff. And he's like, no, like you can send him home. And she's like, no, it's fine. You know, whatever. Well, during poker night is when, Atlas leaves to like take a phone call, and she asks his friends about Cassie because she hasn't seen Cassie yet, all this stuff, and they're like, who's Cassie? Like, in the 2 years that I've known Atlas, he's never had a girlfriend, he's never talked about Cassie, whatever. So then when he comes back out, it becomes like a whole thing, and so she finds out, oh, there's no Cassie, there never was a Cassie. He said that because I brought a guy to his restaurant and, you know, he didn't want to feel like, you know, left out, whatever. Or like, you know, that he was so hung up on her. But in the movie, because she stays one night, there's no poker night. And as soon as they get into the apartment, like into Alice's apartment, she asks him, she's like, there is no Cassie, is there? And he says no. Which, like, I mean, that's kind of like not as big a deal, but it's still like, okay, let's see. Okay, so those are like pretty much all of like my notes that I like made. Hi Betty. So in my opinion, I did not care for the movie that much. I really didn't. I feel like it lacked a lot of stuff. And yes, you know, you do kind of miss out on, hold on. You do miss out on a lot of stuff in a movie because, because, I mean, obviously in a book, you have to describe everything, right? Because you don't have the visuals. So some of this stuff, can we stop, please? Can we stop? So, you know, instead of having the visuals of what is happening, you describe everything, right? So obviously there are some differences between a book and a movie as far as that goes. There is a lot more description in a book. You can kind of like create your own like scenario and your own version of things, if that makes sense. Okay, hold on. We're gonna move rooms because this is what we're working with. I'm almost done. They couldn't wait like 5 more minutes. So obviously, you know, you're gonna have less description and it's gonna be more visual. But I feel like they dropped the ball on a lot of really important things, and like her telling Ryle about her father is huge, because then when he messes up, like, he knows in the back of my head, oh, I fudged up, like, this is not good, you know, I was supposed to be different, like, all this stuff. And Ryle tells her, like, I am not him, like, you cannot compare us, blah blah blah. And she's like, I know that, but like, he kind of is, right? And like, it's a huge thing that you're just leaving out, and it's the whole premise of the book, of the storyline. And yeah, I was gonna say something else, but I also feel like then the movie kind of lacks some of, kind of like, it lacks a lot of like the empathy that he feels towards her after he does these things to her. Because in the book, he is so apologetic, he is so sorry, all of this stuff, and in the movie, he's just kind of like, yeah, I'm sorry, it's not gonna happen again, blah 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 kind of thing. Like, he lacks the empathy that he has in the book. And it's just, I don't know, I feel like they really dropped the ball on the movie. I love the book. I loved the book. Loved the book. If you're deciding between watching or reading it, please read it. Please read it. It is worth the read. It is so good. I could not put the book down. The movie is, it's okay. It's okay. I would not watch that movie again, personally. But the book I could read again. Like, I don't think I would, but like, you know what I mean? Like, the book was good. And has a lot more detail. So anyway, that is my first like official book versus movies review. Comment down below if you have any more book versus movie ideas. I do have a list in my phone, so it might be a minute before I get to your suggestion, but I will add it to my list. So please, 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 if you have a suggestion, leave it in the comments and I will be adding it to the list, and I will be getting to it eventually. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. Please let me know if you liked this. I enjoyed doing like reading the book, watching the movie, and doing like a little review and just like comparing the two. So I want to do this again. So I will be doing this again because I can. This is my channel. But please let me know if you did like it. Give it a thumbs up. And yeah, please comment any other suggestions. Please subscribe if you're not already, because it really supports my channel. As always, I love and appreciate every single one of you, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye, guys.